Now time to start our Unit 2, Online Analytical Processing, which is OLAP. So let us begin Online Analytical Processing. So first of all, the term OLAP, Online Analytical Processing. It is a software for performing the multi-dimensional analysis at high speed on large volume of data from a data warehouse, from the data marts, or from some other unified or centralized data store. That means generally when we have large amount of data, it has to be stored in some place. Data warehouses can be used, data marts can also be used, some other data stores can also be used to store this large amount of data. Now when we need to make some analysis of data, we require some computing method. We required some software for performing the multi-dimensional analysis at a high speed of this large amount of data that we have. So the technology, the method we use here, it is OLAP, Online Analytical Processing. It is a method for performing multi-dimensional analysis at high speed on the large amount of data. Basically, OLAP, it is a classification of the software technology which authorizes the analyst, the managers and the executive to gain insight into the information. Our people who are working on this data, whether they are the analysts, they are the managers, they are the analysts, the executives, what do they want? They want the insight of all the information that we have through some fast, consistent, interactive access. And they also require a wide variety of possible views of data that has been transformed from the raw information to reflect the real dimensionality of the enterprise so that it can be understood by the clients easily. So OLAP, it is that sort of technology which is helping all our executive managers and our analysts to gain insight into this large amount of data. For example, if you say nowadays so many people, they are working on internet, they are working on social media, so they keep on sending so much of data. Now this data, it has to be stored properly, and after storing the data, if we want to make some strategies related to our businesses, we need to analyze this data properly. So OLAP is one technology which helps us to analyze our data from different perspectives, from different dimensions, so that as per the requirement we can access the data. OLAP basically, it implements the multi-dimensional analysis of the business information, and it supports the capability for the complex estimation, trend analysis and sophisticated data modeling. So basically, OLAP, it implements a multi-dimensional analysis of the business information. We can have our information, it has to be analyzed from different dimensions. So OLAP, it is a computing method, or we can say it is a software which is used to implement this multi-dimensional analysis of the business information. OLAP, it will enable the end clients who are exactly using to perform the ad hoc analysis of record in multiple dimensions, providing the insight and understanding they require for better decision making. So OLAP is a technology that is very much required nowadays, so that we can analyze our data properly from different views. If suppose we want to get to know about some customer, so we need to analyze the data related to him. We need to analyze what sort of product does he buy, in which quarter of the year does he make most of his purchases. All these things have to be analyzed to understand that customer. So using this OLAP technology, it helps us to understand our clients better, so that we make strategies, we implement our strategic decisions keeping those customers in mind. And so thus, it will help us to analyze our information properly, which can be used in a very beneficial way for our businesses. there are various characteristics of our OLAP. This online analytical processing, that means we are processing our data to gain some advantage from that. So there are certain characteristics of OLAP. The very first here is multi-dimensional conceptual view. Our OLAP system, it lets the business users have a dimensional and logical view of the data in the data warehouse. It helps in carrying the slice and the dice operation. That means it helps in having certain view of data. We want to view only this part of our data, so it can be viewed. We want to see this particular quarter of data, this particular slice of thing, so that can be done. So it provides multi-dimensional conceptual view. It let a business user have a dimensional and logical view of the data in the whole data warehouse. So that is one characteristic of our OLAP, multi-dimensional conceptual view. Second, multi-user support. Since the OLAP techniques, they are shared, the OLAP operations, it should provide normal database operations containing the retrieval, the updates, the adequacy control, the integrity and security. So it provides multi-user support. Different users, they can use it as per their requirement. OLAP, if we are using this OLAP technology for storing our data, so it provides us multi-user support, all kind of users. Whether they are the analysts, the managers, the executives, any user, they can use this OLAP technology as per their requirement. So it provides us the multi-user support. Next, accessibility. OLAP, it acts as a mediator between the data warehouse and the front end. The OLAP operations, it should be sitting between the data source and an OLAP front end. Means they're accessible. This OLAP, they are accessible for different kind of users from different ends. So it basically, if you want to access this data, this OLAP, it will act as a mediator between our data warehouse and the front end. On the front end, we have the user. On the side end, we have the data warehouse in which all the information related to our business is stored. Now this OLAP, it will act as a mediator and help us access the data from the data warehouse. So it provides us the accessibility. Next, storing the OLAP results. OLAP results, they are kept separate from the data sources so that they can be used for further analysis of data. So we store our OLAP results separately from the data sources. So that is another characteristics of our OLAP. Then we have uniform documenting performance. Increasing the number of dimensions or the database size, it should not significantly degrade the reporting performance of our OLAP system. This OLAP system, it should provide us with the uniform documenting performance, whether you increase the dimension, whether you increase the database size, but it should not degrade our reporting performance. So this is another characteristic that our OLAP provides us. So the main characteristic that OLAP has: multi-dimensional conceptual view, multi-user support, accessibility, storing the OLAP results, and the uniform documenting performance. Now talking about few of the benefits that OLAP has. If we implement this OLAP into our business, what advantages it will provide us? First of all, OLAP, it will help the managers in decision making through the multidimensional record views. That is efficient in providing, so it will increase the productivity. Because managers of the organization, they need to make various decisions for increasing the productivity of their businesses. So to provide this kind of data to them, this OLAP help us. So it helps the managers in the decision making by providing them the multi-dimensional record view. They can view the data from different angles, we can say. As per their perspective, what do they want to analyze? It provides a multi-dimensional view. So that is the very first advantage of using this OLAP technology. Second, OLAP, it functions as a self-sufficient owing to the inherent flexibility support to the organized databases. This OLAP, it functions, they are self-sufficient. So all the functions that it provides, they are self-sufficient. So it provides a flexibility to the various databases. That is the next advantage of using this OLAP. Thirdly, it facilitates the simulation of business models and problems through extensive management of analysis capability. So it is provided. What does it provide? It facilitates our simulation of the business models and the problems through extensive management of the analysis capability. Using different analysis capability, our simulation of the business models and the problems can be done using this. Our OLAP, it facilitates us in simulation of all kind of business models and problems. This is the third advantage. Fourth, in conjunction with the data warehouse, OLAP, it can be used to support a reduction in the application backlog, faster data retrieval, and reduction in the query drag. That means when we are using this OLAP technology, when we raise a query that this particular customer buys which product at which what point of time and how much sale does he make in a year, any of this query can be raised on the OLAP, and it provides the faster retrieval of the data related to our query. So this is the next advantage of using this OLAP technology into the organization. Talking about, that was about OLAP, online analytical processing. Now we are talking about OLTP, that is online transaction processing. It is an operational system which supports the transaction-oriented application in a three-tier architecture. Basically, online transaction processing, it is an operational system which supports the transaction-oriented application in a three-tier architecture. It administers the day-to-day transaction of an organization. Online transaction processing, it says transactions which are taking day-to-day, the day-to-day operations that are taking place, that are administered by our OLTP. OLTP, it basically focuses on the query processing, maintaining the data integrity in the multi-access environment, as well as the effectiveness that is measured by the total number of transactions per second. So basically, OLTP, it works on the day-to-day operation. It is an operational system which supports the transaction-oriented application. Some characteristics of our OLTP. OLTP, it uses a transaction which include the small amount of data. So OLTP, it will use the transaction when we have small amount of data. While OLAP that we studied, it used to work on the large amount of data. But OLTP, it uses a transaction which includes small amount of data. So it will process those transactions. Next, index data in a database, it can be easily accessed using OLTP. If we have certain index data, it can be easily accessed using OLTP. Next characteristic is OLTP has a large number of users because day to day we want to make the transaction. So if we compare the number of users, see, decision making, it has to be done once in a while in the organization. Every day new decisions are not made. So OLAP, it has less number of users, while when we talk about OLTP, it has large number of users because whatever transactions are happening day to day, that have to be stored. So OLTP, it has a large number of users. Next characteristic is it has a fast response time. When we talk about the response time, since it has small amount of data, so it will provide us with fast response time to it. Next, the databases, they are directly accessible to the end users. If we are using OLTP, our databases, because they are just working on the day-to-day transactions, day-to-day operations of the organization, so they are directly accessible to the end users. Then OLTP, it uses a fully normalized schema for the database consistency. It uses a proper designing, a proper normalized schema for maintaining the database consistency. Then the response time of our OLTP system, it is short. Obviously, since the amount of data stored is less, so the response time that it provides to the end user, it is also very less. So OLTP, online transaction processing, it is an operation system which supports that transaction-oriented application. That is what is OLTP. So the biggest difference between the OLTP and OLAP system It is the amount of data analyzed in a single transaction. Like an OLTP, it handles many concurrent customers and queries, touching only a single data or limited collection of records at a time. While our OLAP system, it must have the efficiency to operate on millions of data to answer a single query. So that is the basic difference between OLAP and OLTP. You can understand it like OLAP, it is used on the bigger scale, on the larger scale, when the decisions are to be taken, like by the managers or the executives, they want to make certain decisions. So at that point of time, they will be using this OLAP technology because they need to make queries which operate on millions of data. There is a particular store which works all over India, a supermarket store which works all over India. So all the data related to that has to be stored at a place. So using this OLAP technology, in a single query, we can answer questions related to millions of data of maybe the whole country. But in OLTP, what do we require? We require concurrent customers and queries touching only a single data or limited collection of data. Like if a customer, he comes to the store, he makes certain purchases. So what do we need to access? We need to access few of the products related to that. We need to access few of the barcodes related to those products. We need to access the price of that. So that kind of thing, if it happens, then it is considered as the OLTP operations. Let us understand it with the help of this architecture. We have the data warehouse, the business data warehouse. If we are talking about the OLAP information, so there we are performing the data mining technique. We are using the decision making techniques. All these are used at this OLAP. And there is a thin line between OLAP information and the OLTP operations. Using this OLAP information, business strategies have to be made. And we have these business processes. These business processes, they will help us in making certain strategies related to the business, and they will master the data transaction that will go into our data warehouse. So OLAP operation, they will be used at the smaller scale with limited amount of data, while this OLTP with limited amount of data, while this OLAP, in OLAP we have this entire data warehouse where we perform different techniques and we make the strategies according to that. We perform the various business processes and we master the data transactions there. So that is a difference between the OLAP and the OLTP technology.